Hey everybody, it's Allie Edwards and welcome to the process video showing you how I am embellishing and doing some other fun things within my Halloween through the years album project. In this video, I'm going to take you through all the different steps and the different things that I did for each one of the little stories, little categories in my Halloween through the years album. I am starting off by creating a shaker page for my opening page using one of the pattern papers. I'm using both the 2022 and 2023 Halloween kits, so the embellishments and papers that you will see me using are coming from those two kits in particular. My idea for this initial one is simply to begin by creating a shaker page, and I'm cutting out the large circle in this pattern paper that's going to give me essentially creating a frame for some embellishments, for some sequin mixes. I've got a bunch of fun things that I am wanting to place inside here. For my shaker pockets, I like to use this graphics transparency. It is a great transparency. I get it in the 12 by 12 size and then I can cut it down. I use it also as individual pages in my album when I want to make a transparent page or a clear page and build something on top of it. And what I'm doing here is I'm cutting it to 8 1/4 or 7 by 8 1/4, which is the size of the outside the page protector page, and that will actually get placed right on top there or on the back side. That's where my adhesive is. I'm just doing rolling adhesive. This is going to begin creating a home for the elements that I want to have inside of there. You can see that I've got one of the wood veneer titles from the 2022 kit sitting on top of there. My initial idea is that I would actually adhere the Happy Halloween wood veneer onto that background circle and use that as like the anchor element inside my shaker, and that is you'll see how that ends up happening. This is Halloween page is gonna be the page that goes on the back of this shaker, so I'm building it with that in mind. The way that I decided to do this one is I have a big roll of foam tape, and so what I'm doing is I'm gonna put foam tape around this circle, and right now it has adhesive on one side. I'm gonna put it all the way around the circle, and then I'm also going to put it around the outside edge. This is fairly thin. It's not super thick. You could probably find a thinner version if you wanted to, but you want to have a little bit of depth for the different things that you might be putting inside that shaker. So I'm just going around the outside edge, not trying to make it perfect. I mainly just want those foam pieces to touch each other so that the sequin mixes that I'm going to put inside of here and the other embellishments that I'm going to put inside of there will stay within the circle itself. So I don't mind if it goes off a little bit there. That's going to be just fine. And you'll see how that turns out here in a minute, but I want to make sure that those pieces stay on the inside. I'm using a variety of different sequin packs that I got from scrapbook.com this time. They, I believe, are Picket Fence Studios. I'll link them for you guys below. You're going to see them pop up in a variety of places in my album. For my December Daily album, I am using sequin mixes from the Diary of Belle Rose, which you can find on Etsy. She probably also has some Halloween mixes as well. But I'm loving the sequins. Like, I'm loving the opportunity to have these little mixes mixed in. It's just a fun way to add some playfulness to projects like this. And you're going to see how I use those inside a bunch of my pocket pages as we go along here. So just getting the adhesive around the outside edge as well as around that circle, and then I'm going to be peeling all of those off in a minute here and adding in the different elements. So with this one, what I wanted to do is I wanted to have, some of the vellum pumpkins. Those are from the 2023 kit. I wanted to potentially have some, maybe some of the plastic circles. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to put in there, but you can see I'm kind of setting myself up there looking at the circle. You don't have to use the circle if you cut it out. It does have a little bit of texture printed on it, and you can see what I'm doing is just adhering that that circle that I cut out to the back of the This is Halloween pattern paper, so that then I know exactly where things are going to be placed. So there's my Happy Halloween in the wood veneer that I am going to adhere right into the middle, and then the rest of the elements in this particular shaker are going to be loose. So I'm going to take that paper and I'm going to, the circle cutout paper, and I'm going to turn it over and then add some of my fun little things on the inside. You can make this as simple as you want it. You can skip the shaker part altogether and you can just put an embellishment on top of the white circle there. You could write journaling, you could have a photo on top, lots of different things that you could do as you are figuring out what makes sense for you. In the 2023 Halloween kit, we had a bunch of plastic circles, so a few of those are going to pop up in this section here. And I think I also maybe added in some of the, maybe one of the chipboard word phrases. I can't remember. We're going to see it here in a second as we get closer. I also added in some of the wood veneer circles from the 2022 kit. Maybe I didn't. Let's see. Yep, I think, actually I did some of the paper ones. And I'm just kind of laying them on there still to kind of get an idea of what are they going to look like once I get it all in there. Is there enough space for it to move around? As you'll see from the images in the end, I probably put a few too many things inside of there because they're all it's kind of stuck in one place, but I still like how it turned out. So these are the sequin mixes I'm using. I think I have 4 different ones from Picket Fence. So sometimes I am mixing and matching them, and sometimes I'm just adding one in there, and you'll see where more of these show up later on. They're just so fun. They make the whole thing really feel playful, and I think that was a good choice for the feeling that I wanted in this particular project, where it's spanning, a variety of years of Halloweens through the years. So pulling off the adhesive there, and then I'm going to be adding there. I did put a chipboard piece in there. That's what I thought. I thought that I did. It's on the back side, obviously. But then I'll be adding the This is Halloween page right on top, and then that will finish up this particular page. So this is going to be the intro page in the album itself. And I do end up using the We Are Memory Keepers hole punch to punch the holes in order to add this into the album itself. Also, just a heads up that I have also made live on YouTube a full, and if you're watching this on the blog post too, a full flip through video of the completed album. There's no talking, it's just music and me flipping through, so you'll be able to see that as well. There you can see where some of them are kind of stuck in spots. I decided it just made me happy to have all of that. The next thing that I did in the process is I really liked the black with gold foil label stickers that are in the 2023 kit. So I am going to go ahead and add them to all of my pages that have the journaling on them with the photo template. So those of you guys, if you haven't already seen my previous videos, I have 2 other videos on this project. One is kind of talking about I'm in the beginning phases and getting my photos printed and talking about the template and how I'm having some structure to this particular album. So what I did then is printed those things out from Photoshop, the words and the photos. And now I'm going to take these tabs and I'm just going to put them down the pages that have the journaling on them. And I'm going to repeat that on each one of them. I think I used 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I think I used 15 of them overall. And you can decide for your own album depending on how many years you're doing, or maybe you want them on every page. I didn't put them on every page. I just wanted them on the ones that had the journaling and the photos on them. And I tried to do them from left to right going across. And then I had to repeat that more than once. So it ends up with basically 2 rows of the foldovers. Now, one of the things that I did see when I was folding these over is that because they are black and they are printed on white paper, from the manufacturer. Sometimes the white does show through when you fold them over. Something that, if that bugs you, something that you could do is just grab a Sharpie and just add a little bit of extra black ink onto the parts at once they've been folded over and there's a little bit of breakage there where that's where you're seeing the white come out. Just a heads up on that. It didn't really bother me that much. I didn't add the black on top, but I can see where some of you guys might be like, I want it to be, I don't want to see the white of the paper. But this was the next step in the process, was just getting all of those tabs added to those pages with the journaling and photos on them. After I got the tabs on top of all of the pages that I wanted them on there, I moved on to embellishing on the pocket pages. And so the first thing that I did want to use the plastic word spooky that was in the 2023 kit. So I'm trimming that down just a tiny bit to be able to fit in the 4x6 pocket on the bottom. I love see-through embellishments. I love the opportunity to just slip something in the pocket like that. So that's what I'm doing on that one. Of course, you'll see other times in this album where I had photos in those places, and so there'll be something else there. The main thing that I'm doing in this particular section is, remember, I added in all of these 3 pocket page protectors. And so most years I have at least one pocket empty to create a shaker pocket. And so what I'm doing is I'm going through and looking at the embellishments, and I'm picking out 2 or 3 embellishments to add into the pocket with sequins, and then I'm going to stitch on the top. What you saw that I did right there is I took the wood veneer from the 2022 kit, and that kit also came with the gold numbers. And so I'm putting the year on the back of the wood veneer just so that it's another reference to the year. Since I have right now, the year is listed on the template that I printed out, but not anywhere else. So I liked having another little option or another little place to put that. So that's for 2002. You can see then I added in some of those picket fence sequins, and then I did a zigzag stitch along the top on my sewing machine. I'm a super fan of using my sewing machine for paper projects like this, especially to close off a pocket. But if you don't have a sewing machine, you could use washi tape if you wanted to, or you could use a fuse tool if you have one of those. That would be another way to close off the pockets themselves. I tend to be a fan of having the extra texture and color that comes from the stitching. So what I'm doing right here is I'm kind of trying to decide on the ones where I don't have a pocket page, what's something that I could add on top of there. And so what I ended up doing was taking some of the tags, and you're going to see this in multiple places, taking the paper tags. I believe this one is from the 2022 kit. I can't remember. It might be the 2023 kit. But I'm using that same graphics plastic. I'm laying that on top, and I'm going to run that through the sewing machine on 3 sides so that I can still put in some of the little sequins in here so that I'm making some little essentially shaker tags. So most of the embellishing that I'm deciding to do in this one is having things that have little sequin mixes mixed with the embellishments that we had in the kits for the last couple of years. So just added them in there. Then I'm going to take it back over to the sewing machine. I'm going to stitch it shut. Again, you could use washi tape if you wanted to do something like this. You could also use, I'm trying to think about it. You could hand stitch it. That would be another thing. I'm also using some bright orange ribbon. This is Grosgrain, I think that's how we say it, ribbon. And I got it in a pack of ribbon that just has a variety of different colors, and I'll link that for you guys in the supplies. And for this particular project, I just decided to use this one color of ribbon. So you're going to see this repeated in a few different places in the album. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use red line tape and adhere this. So when I'm doing a project like this, I am someone that really appreciates finding some ways to create consistency throughout the album and to repeat some of the things. I'm also not afraid to step out of the formula that I create for myself, because I don't, everything isn't always the same. In the case of this one, I have some of the years that have multiple photos and or a page protector in there, and some of them don't. And so on the ones that didn't have a page protector, because I didn't have additional photos, is for what that reason was, I'm creating another little embellishment that I can add on top. So I'm adding the 04 number right on the top of that tag there, and then I'll call that good for 2004, which was that particular spread right there. Super cute. Really, really fun working on this. And what I love about having some things that are repeated is then I'm able to get in a groove, right? So now I'm kind of like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to want to put probably a pumpkin. There I took 2 of the plastic circles. I adhered those back to back, and I'm flipping back and forth, just kind of looking, and then I'll be able to add in the sequins and stitch that shut in just a minute. As I was looking at the photo enlargement here, my other full photo page, I thought a little bit about, are there some embellishments that I might want to add in here? I grabbed the gold foil word from the 2022 kit. I'm going to adhere that and place that right down onto that super large pumpkin. So this is a good example of a treatment on a photo that is not necessarily repeated in the same way anywhere else. So sometimes I am looking at the photo, well, I'm always looking at the photo individually and trying to decide what kind of embellishment would I like to put on here, or does it not need any embellishment at all? Can it just live on its own? And I do that with a couple photos on here, but this one just seemed to be just right. I added the vellum with the gold foil that was from the 2022 kit right along the bottom underneath there. And then I'm going to go back to adding in the sequins. But first, before I did decide I still wanted to continue adding on the numbers to designate the year. And so I went ahead and did that on that one. And you'll see me add in some sequins there in a minute. I'm using red line tape on the back of the vellum piece that's going to sit on top of that full page photo on top of the pumpkin there. Just adding, this is a red line tape. I think it's the one that I got from Amazon has a 1/4 inch red tape and I think a 1/2 inch. I think that those, maybe it's an 1/8 and a 4th and an 1/8, a 4th and a 1/4, something like that. But it's nice to have 2 different sizes because sometimes you really want the thinner version there. All right, so now I'm going back to my sequins. I tried to vary the sequins a little bit. So one of them has spiders in it. One of them has witches' hats. It's kind of like sequins all over the place, but it was fun. Like I said, it feels really playful and fun, and a fun way to have a repeated embellishment that's showing up throughout the album itself. And that's also part of the reason why I decided to do that shaker pocket for my intro page, or for that first page too. So finish that one up. Then I'm here with another full page photo. This one doesn't have a page protector insert. I created a little bit of a formula for myself on this one. I think I repeat this one other place in the album, where I'm using the half circle embellishment from the 2023 kit with the chipboard piece, just to create a little embellishment cluster there that has the chipboard line paired with the half circle, and then I put the date on top of there using those gold numbers, which were again in the 2022 kit. I'm using red line tape to adhere that chipboard piece down onto the photo itself. This is also a great example of a spread that I could have just left this one alone. Like it doesn't necessarily need to have any embellishing, but I like adding a little bit of something on there. I'm going to be using foam adhesive for the half circle, so it lifts up a little bit off the back of the page, giving it a little bit of extra dimension. I can't tell you guys how much fun it was to go back and look at all of these pictures and see our Halloweens through the years. It's just such a different way. It tells a different story, right, than all the stories that I've told over the years, whether they've been in layouts or in project life. It is just different to be able to see them all together in one place. It tells a different story. It references time in a little bit of a different way. And you see the progression of life. And that's a really fun thing to see related to a very specific event. So inside this shaker, I am doing the Trick or Treat wood veneer from the 2022 kit and one of the pumpkins from the 2023 kit. If you had neither of these kits, you could still add any embellishments, right, into a shaker pocket or into the page protector pocket like this, using some of the things that you potentially have in your stash. So don't be afraid of that as well. Loved having just the reference to the date, just so that when I'm flipping through, if I happen to not be on a page that has the journaling and the photo together, I'm able to quickly see what year it actually was when I put that together. All right, so another embellishment that I decided to do on one of these big photos was a trail of circles. That's kind of that's a phrase that I am using when I am doing a gathering of embellishments that kind of goes along in a little trail, right? Like a little path. So I'm pulling out some of the plastic circles along with one of the large paper circles, is the one with the moon and the stars. And I'm laying out where I would like them to be placed on this full page photo. And then I'm going to run this through the sewing machine to add some texture and to stitch them all in place. Now, one thing that happened to me in this little portion right here is that I forgot that I already had this photo adhered to another photo on the other side. So I do end up with a stitching line along the back on the other side, and you'll see how I end up hiding that in just a minute here after I get through the process of stitching. I'm just doing a little bit of temporary adhesive with these plastic pieces, so when I take it over to the sewing machine, they will stay in place. So, and obviously you can do this without the stitching. You can just use adhesive. You could use brads for each one of them. If you wanted to add in a little bit something else, I just really, like I said, continue to like the stitching. All right, and I think that that turned out really cute. I also went into my stash and found some of these gold glitter stars from that we've offered at some point in time. I'm pretty sure with December Daily, but they were in my star embellishment box, and I really liked adding them in. Like, just added a little bit of something extra. Maybe you have some other little fun embellishments that you might want to add on there too, or you could turn those circles into shaker pockets, right? Like you could into shakers. I guess those aren't pockets, into shakers. And then I'm going back in with my large We Are Memory Keepers hole punch there. Now this is the back side of that photo, and what I'm adding on top of the stitching, this is where that line of stitching was, is I'm simply taking two of the vellum pieces and adding them on there. One was not long enough, so I did one, and then I'm adding another one along the edge, and I'll pick it up in a second here so you can see what that looks like as I adhere it down along the bottom. I think that that was a good, there you go, you can see where the stitching is along the outside edge. There we go, add that on there. So fun. Those pictures, it's the pictures. They are just so fun to look at. And then I did need to repunch one of the holes again because the vellum was sitting on top of that. And then I'm back in and I'm continuing on with doing another shaker pocket. First, though, I did add the wood veneer on top of that that picture right there because I thought that was fun to add a little bit of something else. So back to the shaker pockets, I'm going to pull out two plastic pieces, most likely, that will be stapled back to back. I think I'm realizing that right now. Yep, using my tiny attacher, stapling them back to back. Then I will slip it inside, most likely with a pumpkin, and then add in some of the sequins there, and then I'll take it over to my sewing machine and do a zigzag stitch. I did a zigzag stitch on all of the pockets and the places where I wanted to have stitching, and then I did a straight stitch on a couple other places, like on that embellishment trail or that circle trail that I just did a few minutes ago. I really liked adding on the numbers to the back of those wood veneer circles too. I thought that was a fun way where that enabled me to use both the front and the back of that embellishment. You can see I'm sticking in a little bit of a few sequins from the sequin mix there, and then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and stitch that on top. Here is another spread where I'm deciding what I wanted to add. This is another one that doesn't have the pocket page on the inside, so I'm going to take this tag that's from the 2023 kit and I'm going to add the graphics plastic on top. I'm going to run it through the sewing machine and I'm going to add in a few sequins in there from those sequin mixes, and then that will get added on to my photo collage. On that particular full page, I had 4 different photos that I added on that one just as a little bit of variety compared with the full page photo. So left a little bit of space there. I think that I ended up deciding, no, I did do the sequins. Yep, I still did that. On one of these coming up, I added in some little star sequins that I had, which wasn't one of the picket fence ones. But super cute. I just think it's just a fun, it's simply embellished, but I think it's done in a way that isn't competing with the photos and the stories that I'm telling here, and that's that's usually my goal. How can I have my embellishments not compete with them, but feel like that they are supporting them and that they are just kind of becoming part of the story? Another thing that you'll notice here is that when I do ribbon, most of the time I don't tie it in a knot. I actually use the tiny attacher just to staple it. That results in a little bit less bulk. Sometimes when you're tying the ribbon, it can get super bulky on there, and I decided to not do it that way. And that's why I like to staple them. I'm adding red line tape on to this tag, the little shaker tag that I now have, and then that is going to get adhered on to that photo there. All right, and then we're going to keep going. So this is really what I did for a couple days, right? Is once I kind of figured out my own little formula, which was a combination of taking the page protectors, turning those into shakers, and then creating some shaker tags that went on top of some of the photos, right? It doesn't have to be on every single photo. You can pick and choose what makes sense to you in the way that you're putting your album together. Okay, so next I'm adding the gold foil trick or treat. That's from the 2022 Halloween kit, and then I'm going to add in a pumpkin. I'm going to put the date on the back of this pumpkin using those same thin puffy gold foil numbers or gold numbers. Put that in there, and then this will also get some sequins, and then we're going to run it through the sewing machine. I love this part of the process when I am simply in a production mode. You know, I already made the decision, like the main decision in terms of what I wanted to do for each one of these pockets. So I'm not reinventing the wheel every time I come to add something in here. I know that I'm picking and choosing from the things that I have available, and I'm following essentially a little bit of a formula, right? Where I'm adding 2 embellishments, then adding sequins, and then doing the stitching along the top. So love it. That photo there I end up leaving blank, and I do have a blank space here though that is a 4x6 photo blank space, and I didn't feel like printing out any additional photos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the vellum sheets from one of the, I can't remember, I think this one was the 2022 one. I'm going to cut it into a 4x6 card, and then I'm going to add some of the word phrase tags, the longer tags. Actually, not this one. I'm going to do on this guy here. That's the other one's going to appear on a different one. So cutting this down to 4x6, and then I will be doing another embellishment tag using the tag that had a quote on it. And I think that one is from the 2022 kit. They both had tags in them. They both had vellum. They both had pattern papers, and then they had some different embellishments within each one of them. So there's the vellum. It's kind of cool because the black vellum is dark enough that I didn't really care if I used it as a see-through thing, and it worked really great just as a background for this little shaker tag that I'm going to make. I think that this is the one that I end up adding on some little gold, or just adding gold stars from my other sequin stash of just little tiny gold star sequins, because I still wanted to be able to read the quote that's on top of the tag. One of the things that I did do also as I was creating these tags is I used a little bit of washi tape just to hold the plastic, the graphics plastic on top while I was running it through the sewing machine, right? I'm going to take it over there. I stitch it on 3 sides so that it still has an opening, and then I'm able to add in some of the sequins. And one thing I would check for yourself too is that some of the sequins have more dimension than other ones. So some of the picket fence ones that I was using here had they're not as big as beads, but they're almost like beads. Like they have they're not flat sequins. So just a heads up, sometimes it was easier to pick a different sequin set for me when I was doing that because I didn't want to have a ton of extra, but it was not that big of a deal. I'm just giving you a heads up in case you go that way too. I am also adding on that bright orange ribbon that I really love, and you can see that I added those little stars in there. I'm going to staple that in a place and then adhere that onto the vellum piece. I will also repeat that vellum 4x6 in another location in the album, so I like that from a consistency standpoint, but I will add something different onto the sheet of vellum that's not a tag, just to mix it up a little bit. But I felt like that was a good selection or a good choice for me in a spot that didn't have a photo in it. I didn't have a ton of those with the 4x6s. Most of them the photos got filled inside. All right, so here I am. I'm going to do another one, another 3x4, and I'm just kind of showing you the whole process rather than just saying, and then I did this for each one of the pockets, just so you could see a little bit closer the variety. I think for me, a lot of times when I'm creating these sorts of things, it's like a treasure hunt in a way, right? Like a little treasure hunt to figure out what's going to be my formula, what's going to work in a project like this that will make it a little bit simpler in terms of being able to repeat a few things, not having to reinvent the wheel each time. It's like once I get to the point where I've decided on those things, I'm so happy because then I'm just doing the stuff, right? Then I'm just following through on that rather than needing to use my brain every time to think up something different. So this project definitely has a mixture of both of those things, because I still, as I look at the full page photos, I'm thinking through, is there something specific that I want to add on here? So here's one other 4x6 pocket that I did have empty. I'm going to trim just a little bit more off of this vellum sheet here. And then on top of there, this is where I'm going to use some of the longer tags, which I think, yes, these are the ones from the 2022 kit. And I'm just going to put 3 of them on top there. I'm going to adhere them down. I'm going to add a little brad, and we're going to call that one good, and then slip that back into the pocket. So a nice way to just have a few sentiments that are supporting the story that we're telling here, and using them in a simple way, right? In a simple way that's not necessarily taking away from anything else. It's just adding a little bit more to the support, adding a little bit more to support the story that I'm telling in this particular project. The other thing I did do with this one too is I did run it through the sewing machine just because I wanted to continue that repetition of having the stitching. To me, it feels like an embellishment that just brings a nice little bit of texture there too. So continuing on, now I'm flipping through, I'm like pockets. Most of those pockets are all filled in, right? The later years of pockets, or the later years of stories have fewer empty pockets because we just had more pictures, right? More kids, more pictures, all of the above. So I flipped through to find there was one more. So I'm going to add sequins into this one right here. Following the same formula as you guys have seen. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the video right here, and then I will start the next portion. I'll do a separate one because I still have about 30 minutes left, and so we'll break it up for a little bit for you. So if you're watching this, you'll be able to jump right into the next one, but if you need to take a break, you can take a little break, and then you can come back and see what happens in the next portion of the construction of this really fun Through the Years Halloween album. I'm going to run this guy through the sewing machine, and then we'll see you back here in the next video.